Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's high noon on Monday. We're starting the week. It's exciting times. Thanks to everyone who's already tuning in. And today I wanted to really talk about the concept that being in business should give us more freedom. And really, it's about thinking, what do you want that freedom for? Do you want the freedom to do things your way, to work with who you want, when you want, and finally to have that financial freedom? And that's often why we go into business and we are entrepreneurs, because we can create something bigger than ourselves. And that's really what I wanted to talk about with today. So we often talk about in Action Coach, our definition of a successful business being a commercially profitable enterprise that can thrive without you. And that's creating something for you, your family, and your future. So today I wanted to go through 8 key drivers of value for the next session with us. Grab your lunch. I'm a bit behind. I've still got my cup of soup. And as a gift for listening in today, we'll show how you can get a valuation score for your business as well. So you may have heard me speaking on the Lunch and Learn and my colleagues, but a little bit about myself. So aspiring to be the best for me led to firstly reading law at Cambridge University, mixing with the best of the best, then diverting into technology. So in our business, we took Taser, the stun guns you may be familiar with, to become a household name in the UK, in the hands of police officers, literally saving lives, and rolled out by the then Home Secretary, Jackie Smith, to police officers in every locality. I'll go into some detail later of how I applied many of the methodologies we'll cover this afternoon and managed to create something valuable enough to sell and give me that freedom to now empower others to do the same. So the first thing I want to talk about this afternoon is, well, really the antithesis of freedom is being trapped. So imagine the bear with his foot in a trap. He can't move. If you've ever read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, he spoke of the entrepreneurial seizure, where we start as the industry guru. We're doing all the sales, but employees love repetition, and you can't train them to do or sell too many things. Therefore, you can't train them fast enough, and the business becomes reliant on you. This phenomenon is called the owner's trap. Now, signs we can look for that you're falling into that trap are the business slows when you take a holiday. Potentially, customers come to you with problems, or your growth has reached a plateau. Not only are businesses stuck in the owner's trap stressful to run, they're also worthless because nobody's going to buy a company that's dependent on its owner. So that's why the ultimate freedom is to own a valuable, sellable business that can thrive without you. You've got that ultimate poker hand in life. If your business is scalable because it's not dependent on you to deliver, it's also sellable, easier to pass down, or simply run as your company's chairman without having to be involved in that day-to-day. So we assess and improve the value of our clients' businesses so that people like you, assuming you're a business owner listening today, can gain freedom over your time and money to get back the reasons you started business in the first place. And even if you don't own the business, maybe you're a manager or even a key employee within the business, some of the things we're going to talk about today, they can be applied to virtually any business, to think about how can you deliver a more valuable business, because what kind of business would you like to work for? One that's valuable or one that has areas for improvement? So we worked with more than 50,000 businesses in the last 10 years, specifically researching value, and discovered that there are 8 key drivers to a company's value. I'll explain later how you can get your own score, as I said. So today, we're going to work through each driver. I'll explain why the drivers impact your company's value, and then we'll discuss how to improve your performance in each area. So if we start with the first of financial performance of your business, the turnover, the profit, how solid the business is. So remember, the goal is to build a sellable business, not necessarily because you want to sell it, but because owning a sellable business gives you that ultimate freedom of owning an asset that can thrive without you. Now, after analysing thousands of transactions, we can definitively say that financial buyers only buy one thing when they make an acquisition. They buy your future stream of profits. So I repeat that. Financial buyers are buying your future stream of profit. Therefore, as an owner, you have two big levers to pull on to drive up the value of your company. First of all, how much profit your company will make in the future. And then secondly, how reliable are your estimates? So let's take a look at how an acquirer will value your business one day, not because you're necessarily planning to sell, but because understanding the methodology an acquirer will use in the future allows us to drive up the value of your business today. So the acquirer starts by trying to estimate how much profit you'll make in the future and then apply a rate of return they want in return for committing their capital. For example, imagine you have a business that's forecasting to earn £1 million in pre-tax profit next year. And a buyer comes along and wants a 15% return on their money. He or she would be willing to spend £869,570 today for the rights to £1 million a year from now. So we're simply taking that £1 million, dividing it by 15% or 1.15, and that gives us what's called the present value, often referred to as discounted cash flow. But that's not the end of the story, because this business, like your business, no doubt, expects to make a profit 2 years from now as well. So the buyer will again value the second year of profit by applying their expectations for that 15% return. But now they have to wait 2 years for their money. And therefore the £1 million is divided by 1.15 twice. So you get 756,000. So a buyer's going to discount further for every year they have to wait to get their money. Now I'm using a rounded flatline profit figure for illustration here, but you can see that at £5 million, this is roughly 5 times annual earnings. And you'll often hear about companies being sold for 3, 4, 5 times EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation and amortization. So now you can probably start to understand where that figure comes from. So again, the two levers we can manipulate to drive up the value of the business are, firstly, how much profit we expect to make in the future, and secondly, how reliable are those estimates. So if we focus on the reliability of those future streams of profit, let's take excuse me, a second business, which also projects £1 million in pre-tax profits for the next 10 years. But in this case, the reliability of those estimates are shaky. Given how risky the future stream of profits are, the buyer has a very high expectation for a rate of return, just like you and I. The riskier the investment, the higher return we expect. Now, when you apply a 50% discount to the future stream of profits, the business ends up being worth less than 2 times today's earnings. The reality is your business will likely get a discount rate somewhere between a potentially overly optimistic 15% and an overly pessimistic 50%. And the rate will be determined by how risky that the buyer deems your future stream of profits to be. So now I'm looking at paying more like 2 times profits. Now, this maths, we don't need to worry about too much. An acquirer bluntly will no doubt do that in their boardroom while you're not there. In fact, thinking of a multiple of EBITDA is like comparing apples and pears. The reality is market conditions, the macroeconomy, interest rates, they may determine this in reality. So all we need to focus on is having profits that are as reliable as possible. So a little exercise for yourself. Take a piece of paper and calculate a rough estimate of what you think your business is worth today using this methodology. So you estimate how much profit your company is going to make in the years ahead. 10 years out suffices for the exercise, and then apply a discount rate of 25%, a mid-range between the pessimistic and the optimistic scenarios. Now, the second factor that drives your company's value is your potential to scale up and grow in the future. Now, scaling up requires you to isolate a small set of products or services to sell that meet our trifecta of scale. Now, what we mean there is something that's teachable, not dependent on you, something that's valuable to customers and repeatable, creating those recurring revenues. Now, many business owners find themselves broadening the list of products and services they sell as customers ask. Selling lots of things to a few customers is a recipe for your business to become owner dependent now, because you're likely the only person in the company with enough industry knowledge to successfully deliver such a broad product or service line. So if we take a photography business in Banbury, Oxfordshire, who went through this exercise, they identified three main areas. Weddings, firstly. Now, weddings for photography are pretty formulaic, albeit with some spontaneity, but otherwise pretty teachable. Now, when we say valuable, we mean differentiated rather than a commoditized offering. Usually one of the must-haves for brides and grooms is having good quality photography or photographs produced. But then unless you're Boris Johnson, they aren't particularly repeatable. Football teams, again, really teachable. Tall at the back, small at the front. Valuable? Well, probably, but most likely on price. How bothered are we about every team photo? School photos score well on all three attributes, however, because you can teach young photographers how to shoot the formulaic school photo. Teachers and headmasters value the school photographer who can get children efficiently in and out of the hall and has the toys and jokes to get results quickly. Remember, it's the school that hires the photographer and values getting the children back into classes quickly the most. And we as parents want the school photograph every year. So school photos are high on all three attributes as we can do it every year. Most photographers, however, run worthless businesses because they're highly dependent on their owner. But the few who have gone through the scalability trifecta, as we call it, they've scaled up, like the school photography company in Banbury. All they do is school photographs. And they've scaled up because focusing on one offering has allowed them to teach employees to deliver a repeatable service which customers value, coming from the well-named school photography company. So then scale up your business by focusing on the offerings in the top right-hand corner of this chart. So now as we work through this exercise for your own business, you'll probably find a natural tension between these two attributes of valuable and teachable. In other words, those attributes that are the least valuable are often the most teachable, whereas those that are the most teachable are the least valuable. That's normal. And the secret may be in bundling a number of less valuable offerings into a valuable bundle. So let's look at an example, an accountancy practice. As you can see, the most teachable attributes are often the least valuable, and there's nothing in the top right-hand corner of the graph. So if this happens to you, ask yourself the question Darren Root asked himself. Now, Darren ran a successful accounting practice in the state of Indiana in the States. He did a little bit of merger and acquisition work or corporate finance work, which was highly valuable to SME clients, but completely unteachable. It takes years. It is not something you can just teach a bookkeeper. He did a little bit of tech consulting, which moving to the cloud, leveraging QuickBooks Xero or ERPs, a little easier to teach and still pretty valuable. And then we've got audits, which, like most firms, again, relatively teachable, but a little less differentiated. Then we've got payroll, cash book, and reporting, which are pretty teachable. Any bookkeeper could do, so pretty commoditized, although easy to teach. So Darren decided to focus his accounting practice on serving the needs of a niche. Professionals, think doctors, architects. They place a high value on their time. So Root decided to bundle all of the teachable services into one bundled solution. While individually the attributes were of low value, when you bundled them, he allowed his customers to completely eliminate the need for a back office staff and instead outsource the entire back office to Root's company. So Root called his bundle BOSS, great branding. It stands for Back Office Support System. So imagine that you're a doctor or an accountant, if you're a doctor and an accountant offers to process your payroll. That one service on its own is probably not going to make you switch accountants. because you still need to employ a bookkeeper to do your daily cash book, reconcile your bank. But when Darren Root's firm offers to take the entire back office function off your hands, that's a very different and much more valuable proposition. As I say, look at the branding. So it was the bundling of the services that took that offering to the top right of our quadrant. So as you work through this exercise in your own business, consider bundling a set of services to get that ideal offering. So if the bundling of the services took the offering to the top right, what we need to think about is if we've got a product business, what does that mean? So even with products that you think are differentiated, say you launch the iPhone, but then within a few months, there are touchscreen phones on the market looking very similar. Now, John Stanton, founder of the Running Room, decided he needed something to set his company apart, as there are lots of shops that sell the same trainers, never mind online. So he decided to focus on offering running clinics in his store. He taught people how to run a 5K, then a 10K. Once they had graduates from 10K, he taught them how to run a half marathon, then a marathon, qualify for Boston. These clinics were based on his experience as a runner. And as he scaled up his business and opened a second shop, he taught his managers how to run the clinics. His customers valued the advice, and once customers successfully ran a 5K, they were hooked, and they came back regularly for an even more challenging clinic. Stanton had scaled up his trifecta. He'd taken that teach, valuable, repeatable service wrapper and wrapped it around what he was doing. And now, more than 100 shops across North America. So if you own a product business, try to identify a service wrapper that could be your teachable, valuable, repeatable. So focus on your business this lunchtime. Take your main service lines and plot them on the extent to which they are firstly teachable to employees, secondly valuable to customers, and remember that's the opposite of a commodity, it's differentiated, and then finally how repeatable. Customers have to repurchase from you regularly. Now, the next factor to talk about this afternoon is creating a valuable business around what we call the Switzerland structure. Now, this name comes from the country which is obsessed by remaining independent. They didn't join the world wars, the United Nations, or the Euro. Now, you too should be obsessed by making sure your business is independent of any one customer, any one employee, or even any one supplier. So think back to what we spoke about at the beginning of this afternoon's session, the value to an acquirer and the discount for risk. And you start to appreciate the importance of this driver, and more generally, how important getting a rounded picture of value is. And I'll come to how you can get your complimentary score soon. So from a customer perspective, your goal should be that no one customer makes up more than 15% of your revenue. Ideally, you should be able to switch any of your suppliers without significantly impacting your business. And oftentimes the hardest part, of the Switzerland structure is to reduce your reliance on one or two key employees. So, little exercise here again. Stack rank your employees from the most difficult to replace to the least difficult. Then make a list of the things you can do or are doing to minimize your dependence on your most difficult to replace employees. Think of the most creative ways to keep employees loyal and engaged. And this exercise I'm giving you here is based on employees, but the other two legs would be the customers and suppliers. So feel free to do that for those as well, and be interesting to see what you take from that. Now, the fourth attribute that drives your company's value and ultimately your freedom to do what you want with your business is called the valuation seesaw. Now, it's named after the seesaw because just like the playground toy, the value of a business moves in the opposite direction of your cash flow needs. In other words, the more cash your business needs, the less it's worth. The opposite is also true. If your business generates cash as you grow, your business will be worth more to a buyer. Now, the reason is simple. When a buyer acquires your business, they have to write two checks. One to you the owner, and a second check to your business to fund its working capital. That's accountant speak for the more money you need in the bank that pays your immediate obligations. Think salaries, rent, payables. But the money to write these two checks comes from the same pocket. So the bigger the check the acquirer needs to write for working capital, the smaller the check you end up getting when you sell your business. So not only does improving your cash flow increase the value of your company, but it also makes it a lot less stressful to run. Imagine a business where you didn't have to dip your hand in your own pocket at the end of the month, potentially, or you're worrying about how to meet payroll. So we spend a lot of time on that. So what can we do? Well, exercise, again, for you to take away and maybe take some notes right now. Think of ideas for getting customers' money sooner and for slowing down the speed with which you pay your suppliers. Bridge that gap, or widen the gap rather, for yourself. Think about what you can do there. Next, I wanted to talk this afternoon about recurring revenue. Now, this is a really interesting one. So I want to reiterate a point we made when we discussed financial performance at the beginning. A buyer buys your future stream of profit, and therefore the more reliable you can make your business model, the more valuable your company is. And recurring revenue is a great way of doing it. And we're seeing a lot of businesses taking this up. So let's take a look at an example from the home security industry, although the same trends play out across almost any industry. So home security businesses have two forms of revenue. Installation revenue they get from coming to install a system in your home, and monitoring revenue they collect each month for ensuring they come to rescue in the event of a problem. Now, the industry standard valuation for installation revenue is 75 pence for every pound of installation revenue. So, for example, if you had a home security business generating £1 million in revenue and all you did was installations, your company would be worth £750,000. Now, the same £1 million business with 100% monitoring revenue would be worth £2 million, because acquirers pay £2 for every £1 of monitoring revenue. The monitoring business is 2.5 times more valuable than the installation business. Now, what's more, recurring revenue allows you the peace of mind to sleep well at night, knowing your basic cash needs for the future are covered. Now, there are 6 forms of recurring revenue, and what I want to do is walk you through from the least desirable to the most. So, starting at the bottom, Costa. Costa runs a basic consumables business, the 6th most valuable form of recurring revenue. Caffeine is a drug most of us use every morning. Therefore, Costa can count on a lot of their customers returning to refuel each morning. Costa doesn't force their customers to return, but we're creatures of habit, and any consumables business benefits from that. Number 5 on the list is a sunk money consumable. That's where the customer has made an investment to do business with you. So sticking with the coffee theme, Nespresso is a good example of a sunk money consumables business. Once you buy an expensive Nespresso coffee maker, you're going to buy the Nespresso capsules that work with your machine. Number 4 on the list of recurring revenue models is the subscription. Magazines are a good example of subscription revenue, where we subscribe to a magazine and the publisher can count on us as a customer for the next year, 2 years. You have a start and an end in this scenario. Number 3 on the list of the 6 forms of recurring revenue is a sunk money subscription business, where the customer makes an investment to do business with you and then buys on a subscription. So the Bloomberg terminal would be a good example here, where you buy a subscription, you buy the hardware, but then you buy a subscription to Bloomberg's market information. Number 2 is an auto renewal subscription. There is no start, but equally there is no start and stop rather. So we're all victims of inertia, and therefore when a subscription continues in perpetuity in that way, we're unlikely to cancel. Think when you store documents with Iron Mountain, they keep sending you a bill until you tell them to stop. But the most valuable form of recurring revenue is a multi-year contract. Now that's where the customer is legally obliged to buy from you in the future. So when Vodafone and other mobile phone companies insist customers commit to a 2-year data plan, it's because they know the value of their company goes up and down in lockstep with their subscription revenue. Now, that sixth factor that drives your company's value is something we call the monopoly control, and it refers to how well differentiated your product or service offering is. Now, our good friend investor Warren Buffett, he looks for that deep and competitive moat. And therefore, your goal should be to find an attribute or benefit of your product that makes it unique in the market, that gives you more control over its pricing, which in turn gives you higher margins, which gives you more money for marketing, allowing you to further differentiate your offering, starting a virtuous cycle. So if we take, for example, Panasonic's entry into the crowded laptop market, when they entered, established brands already owned the attributes customers cared about. Apple was seen as sexy. HP was technically innovative. And Dell owned the benefits of buying direct in the customer's mind. So if you're Panasonic, all of the obvious market positions are already taken. If they had tried to compete directly with any of the incumbents, their only weapon would have been a lower price, which would have led to lower margins. They may have picked up some price-sensitive customers, but as soon as one of the big incumbents matched their price, Panasonic would have been nudged out of the market. Instead, they asked themselves the two questions we all need to ask in order to identify a marketing strategy. One, what do customers care about the most? And secondly, how differentiating would that benefit be if we offered it? So in our laptop example, most laptop buyers cared about the things Apple, HP, Dell were offering. But there was a segment of the market that cared about something different. Police forces and military customers cared about how ruggedized their laptop was. They wanted something that could stand up to the rigors of the inside of a police car, a forward-opening military theatre. Panasonic therefore launched the Toughbook brand. They made the toughest laptop on the market, which gave them a unique position in the market, and therefore they didn't have to compete on price, which gave them higher margins, leading to more money for marketing, their unique benefits, which led to further cementing the Toughbook brand as the choice for people who operate in a rough and tumble environment. So take a few minutes and plot the products, services you offer on the extent to which they make you different and how much customers care. The attribute on the top right-hand side of the page, that's the product service that offers the best opportunity to differentiate. If you market one product or service, plot all of the marketing messages you use to market that offering on that same XY axis. Now, not surprisingly, having satisfied customers is an important element of growing a valuable business. But having satisfied customers is actually not enough. Your goal should be to have customers who are not only happy, but also willing to repurchase and refer you to their friends. That's a much higher bar to reach. As Fred Reichheld discovered, Reichheld is a Bain consultant, and he spent his career studying customers and the way companies measure their satisfaction. Early on, Reichheld discovered that there is virtually no relationship between a customer saying they are satisfied and the likelihood that they will either repurchase or refer you. Many customers would say they were happy and then purchase from a competitor the very next day. So Reichheld got to work combing through the numbers and discovered one question which was predictive of both repurchase and referral. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? Turned out the answer to that question was highly predictive of both referral and repurchase. Reichheld developed a standard measure to benchmark companies on willingness to recommend. It's become the industry standard satisfaction benchmark among virtually every top company, including the likes of Apple, Intuit, FedEx, eBay, Amazon. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend? And if it's a 9 or 10, they're a promoter. If it's a 7 or 8, they're a passive. And a 0 to 6, a detractor. So your net promoter score, you simply take your promoters away from your detractors. And if that hypothetical example were real, you would be above average. A small handful of companies achieve a net promoter score of at least 50%, which Reichel defines as world-class. We've got SAP Matrix, a company that specializes in helping companies integrate the net promoter score methodology, surveyed a number of companies and found the leading brands to be the likes of Samsung and Apple. Among all the companies Reichel and his colleagues at SAP Matrix surveyed, he found the average NPS score is about 10 to 15%. So there are some world-class brands you can benchmark yourself against, including the likes of Amazon on the lower and Apple on the higher, and we can see vastly different scores. But knowing and tracking your NPS score is an important attribute of being sellable, because it's a forward-looking, it's a predictive measurement of your future success. So not surprisingly, many of the big acquirers, including both private equity groups and big strategic acquirers, analyze an acquisition's target NPS scores before making an offer. So if you do want to sell your business one day, tracking that NPS is a critical measure. Now, the final driver of value is arguably the most important. We call it hub and spoke, and it's the extent to which your business relies on you personally. For Switzerland, we looked at employees, customers, and suppliers, but here we look at the owner. Now, the name comes from the airline industry's reliance on hub airports, which is an efficient way to move planes around the globe until a hub like Heathrow gets snowed in, which is when the entire system breaks down. So likewise, a hub and spoke manager controls their business with a decisions centralized at the hub approach. Remove the hub and the business is worthless, which is why companies reliant on their owner are either deeply discounted or worthless. More importantly, hub and spoke businesses are stressful to run because you can never take a break, and all decisions, even the most mundane, are brought to you. So this is where distinguishing between how profitable your business and how valuable your business is comes in handy. Some people use profitable and valuable interchangeably, but of course, they are often in conflict with one another. Instead of hiring salespeople, the owner seeking to maximize her profits would do all of the selling herself. Instead of hiring a management team, the owner seeking profit would likely hire the lowest paid staff they can find to simply execute. While the profit seeker may maximize their profits, they could also grow a worthless business. Now, improving your score on hub and spoke is best handled through small steps. And you've probably already taken steps to minimize your company's reliance on you. So first, make a list of the things you've done in the last year to make your business less dependent on you personally. And then list 2 specific actions you could take in the next 90 days to make your business even less dependent on you personally. Now, most owners started their business for the freedom to build something on their terms. Most business owners fall short of this dream and become trapped in their business. The ultimate goal of any business owner seeking freedom should be to build a valuable, sellable business, because that gives you the best set of choices. Scale, sell, pass down, or even become a non-executive chairman. So as I mentioned earlier, I went through this very journey. My business became very successful, household name in the hands of police officers up and down the British Isles, with global brand level recognition like Hoover, a brand synonymous with what we did and still do. However, to make it more valuable, we shifted from a single product company to a solutions company, packaging together what might have been viewed as other pretty commoditized offerings, cameras, data storage, connectivity, software, all of those lots of companies doing. But by putting them into a valuable bundle along the TVP model we were discussing, with not just other hardware, but software on multi-year contracts, so recurring revenue, with folks from Dropbox and Facebook sitting on the board of directors, applying many of the principles I've just been explaining. And having built the business, I was given the opportunity to sell and successfully negotiated what gave me that freedom from choices of living the life for my family and what I want. And that's what brought me to Action Coach. We were a client of Action Coach applying these methodologies. And today in Action Coach, in our own business, We spoke earlier about Net Promoter Score, and we're thrilled that our clients consistently give us world-class rankings. Last year we scored 78. And you may recall the likes of Apple and Samsung are in that mid-range. I'm pleased to have worked with and empowered businesses personally and with my team of coaches and mentors to scale their businesses to become more valuable. Now, building a commercially profitable enterprise that can thrive without you is something we at Action Coach do every day with tens of thousands of businesses, all following our 6-step framework. Now, that starts with mastering the basics, like building a house with strong foundations. Then we move to niching our sales and marketing, then leveraging systems, ensuring we have a winning team, and create a synergistic business that delivers results. As you might expect, we leverage systems for the clients we work with for learning, planning, goal tracking, forecasting, and taking business to that next level. Clients we work with one-on-one, we guarantee a return on investment as additional profits. So we can only work directly in this way with about 25% of the businesses we speak to. So if what we've gone through today resonates for you in your business, let's explore if you qualify. As I mentioned at the beginning, you'll probably want to claim your own detailed score report, and there are 2 ways that I can offer you that today. Firstly, go to birmingham.actioncoach.com, go to the tools section, and within about 10-15 minutes, you'll be able to secure your report sent straight through to you. If you've got last 3 years of financials to hand, you can actually get a financial value too. However, the second link, g3.as.me/COD, that grabs some time in my diary so we can complete it together, which is always a great way of getting to know each other a little. Filling in online forms on your own can be really lonely, but also making sure the interpretation on the questions and the answers can make a difference, of course. So what your report says is the most useful for you. And if you are a business owner and want to know where that value is today, where the opportunities are, and some actionable strategies, that report is for you. So g3.as.me/COD, cod as in the fish, but no chips. And we'll get you a gifted 20 minutes of my diary and a business valuation report. If you're not an owner, please pass on the link and start to think about how, as a leader in your business, you can start to add value using the methodologies that we've been through today. So thanks for everyone joining today's Lunch and Learn. I found these strategies invaluable in giving me freedom. So take away your actions from those exercises today. Good luck with your business and the challenges and opportunities you face. Book the call. I'm your coach on demand at g3.as.me/cod. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great afternoon, guys.